We have an airport south of town, Aurora Airport, not in the city. Approximately 1,000 people are employed at that airport and the businesses at that airport. There have been those that have suggested that perhaps that airport ought to close down. What are your views about the airport? What do you think about the enhancements that are being proposed for the airport, the tower and the runway extensions, and the other safety features?
In unlawyer-like fashion, I think I can be brief with this one because I think the airport, while it's not in our city limits, is a very valuable resource that this city needs to embrace. There's some very vital businesses that operate down there, and we should welcome them to participate in to the extent that they can. Living in the Daydream Ranch area, I find myself in the flight path of the airport, so I think that any expansion we need to be careful with so that it doesn't adversely impact those who are in the flight path. But generally speaking, if we can do that in a manner that will allow for expansion of the airport and a greater integration between the airport and our community, I think we should encourage that.
I have never heard any politician or really anyone else suggest we ought to close Aurora Airport, so I think that premise is flawed, as stated in the question. I think we all know that it has a place and a role to play. At the same time, it's not under Wilsonville jurisdiction. It's not even in the same county that we're in. To suggest that we should pursue taking control of that planning, I think is not entirely practical. I think that the entities that in fact have jurisdiction would be somewhat resistant to that. I have concerns generally about development south of the river beyond its current level because it will sap the available dollars and energy to do the development that we are committed to do incrementally in Coffee Creek and in Basalt Creek. And the focus that we need to have is on those incremental developments and applying our available funds to that process instead of jumping over and ignoring those areas to the advantage of some more remote area, more disconnected from Wilsonville. So that is the only real concern. The master planning process that has been done at the airport confoundingly did not feel compelled, was not legally obligated, I guess, to consider mitigation. So the plan that they have talked about for expansion, including expansion of runways as well as the airport tower, does not have any plan for how to deal with traffic impacts, with wastewater. Currently they pump their septic tanks once a week in order to survive at their current level. How does that work? Where's the water coming from? I mean, so there's all kinds of urbanization issues as you start to talk about something on the scale that I hear people requesting. So I think we need to deal with that very cautiously, and I do not support jumping into it.
Well, I think first and foremost, it's important to recognize the jurisdiction of Marion County. You know, I'm running to serve as the mayor of Wilsonville. There's not an airport within the city limits of Wilsonville or within the jurisdiction of Wilsonville. We developed a Fred Meyer in Wilsonville. That Fred Meyer created traffic on the Boone Bridge on I-5. I don't think anybody in this room would have supported Marion County intervening in our planning process for Fred Meyer in a development that serves an important need within our community. I also didn't feel it was our place to intervene in Marion County's master planning process. And in fact, I supported, with the majority of the council, a motion to that effect, which essentially supported the position that Tim is taking today, which is it's not Wilsonville's place to intervene in Marion County's planning process. Tim opposed that motion at the time. So I think it's also important to recognize the value that the airport provides to our community in the form of jobs. There are people in Wilsonville that work at the airport. My son plays baseball. His coach is a pilot. His job is at Aurora Airport. We had an end-of-season party. All the kids got to go to the hangar. Every one of them got to ride around Wilsonville over their house in a Piper Cub. It was a great thing. They had a great time. The airport's a great resource, both in terms of jobs, economic activity, and support for local businesses. Charbonneau participants, to the extent that there is an impact, have a legitimate concern, and I'm sensitive to that concern, and I want to do what I can to mitigate it. Charbonneau participants in the airport planning process supported a tower for safety purposes, for traffic control purposes. I believe it's in our interest to support that tower for those reasons as well. Thank you.
Okay, Stanley.
I'm probably a little biased on this, but my practice was in Eastern Oregon for several years there, and I used to use a plane to fly around because it's so sparse. And so I do have that built-in bias, and I think when I moved here, and even before we bought the lot, I knew the airport was there, and you got to accept the fact that there can be progress made. And I do hear planes once in a while go overhead, but basically I'd be in support of it, but it's out of our area, so it's a mute issue.
There's not a whole lot to add to the comments that everybody else has made. It is a Marion County, it is a Marion County issue. I do understand, and I've talked to Charbonneau about their issues and concerns down there regarding air traffic noise. I do, however, believe still that the improvements with the tower, safety is always paramount concern. Regarding traffic going in and out of an airport, it is a private airport. It's going to be private aircraft. There's no consistency to traffic in and out of those kind of areas, and it's usually carloads of people, not huge convoys of people to go and get on these planes. The benefit we have from the airport being there is that it is a tremendous asset to our community, especially if we're looking into expanding and trying to draw more and more businesses to this area. Having an airport close by is a benefit.
Are you supportive of trying to get that kind of a project off the ground, and is that the appropriate use of city funding at this point in time?
I'm supportive of evaluating and trying to figure out whether it's practical or not. The glitch in the question in the survey, if there was one, was that the high level of support at 60-odd% was people said they'd be willing to spend $30 a year to support it. Okay, let's see, we got 8,500 households, $30 a year, you end up with $255,000. Well, how much are you going to bond, if you're going to bond for that purpose? Can you build what the people are expecting at that level? I'm afraid there's some disconnects here, and we have to sort that out. What does that mean? Would it be great to have in the community? Yes. Are there concerns about an aquatic center especially? Yes. If you look at municipalities across the region, across the state, across the country, they all operate with a subsidy forever. You have to be willing to put money in year after year after year after, and that's after it's built and everything's ready to go. There's no model that I have yet seen which changes that equation. So the question of whether the public is ready and willing to do that needs to be explored more fully. I'm concerned that the dollar level we're talking doesn't get people the product that they're thinking it likely would get them, and that is a challenge. That said, I personally met with YMCA representatives, talked about their model that they've used in Sherwood and up in Gig Harbor and some other places that they're very proud of. They have some beautiful facilities. At the last discussion I was involved in, the city would need to donate the site, put up the land, figure out the capital costs, and then they would run. I mean, it's a huge nut to crack to try to build anything on that set. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but there's an opportunity cost. If you do that, there's other things we're not going to do. So we need to figure that out in a broad discussion with the community.
Well, first of all, I'll say I think it's important that we have a mayor that's reaching out and listening to the needs and desires of our community. I strongly supported the community survey. I felt that there were a number of issues that it was important for us to hear directly from the community on, and was fortunate that we have the support of the council and the support of our current city manager to pursue that survey. The survey did show broad support within our community for a community center and a pool. So for that reason, I want to do whatever I can to serve the needs of our community. and take that community center concept to the next level. So I've personally requested staff, and the council has, the majority of the council has provided direction to staff to take the next steps to gather the costs and develop a concept plan so we can have a clearer discussion with the community about the benefits and the costs. And ultimately, the decision whether to move forward with a community center and a pool, I don't believe is my decision to make. I believe it's the community's decision to make, and I'm going to make sure that our community has a voice in that process, and that I will strongly advocate for what I understand to be the needs and desires of our community. And I also think, I agree with Tim, I've also had conversations with YMCA, YWCA. I think we need to consider other out-of-the-box creative methods for funding and operating this community center. It doesn't necessarily need to be simply a city government responsibility to serve the needs of our community. Thank you.
Okay, Stanley?
To reiterate, you can always get a good favorable response if you don't know what the cost is. That survey should have included what the cost of building that facility would and what kind of support it would take. So I'd say that it's probably so far out of reach that a private practice or private owner couldn't afford to do it. And I question that we need the amenity.
I am definitely in support of going through the process of the community center. This concept has been batted around lots for a long time. A lot of people want it, and then the rumor is, oh no, there's no way we can ever afford it. And in alignment with what they've said down there, I would like to really get this process off the ground, get some real numbers, really see what partnerships are out there, see what other creative financing or grants are out there for such a thing. I mean, there's a number of members of our community who leave this community every day, get on I-5 and go 15 minutes up I-5 and spend $200 a month to go to the gym there so they can have a pool. Now, if we can keep those people in our town and keep them closer to home, that serves and meets a lot of our other goals for this community, and keeping everybody close at hand and within our local area. It would also bring people from other areas to our town, and I do believe it would have a regional draw if we do it well. I would say that if we're going to do it, I really want to see what the best product is that we could develop for the best price. Go for it, get the framework together, take it out to the community, let them know what their investment would need to be able to have that as an asset in our community, and see if they're willing to do it.
I would agree with the mayor that this is a huge nut to crack, but I also agree with Mr. Goddard that it's good to see that we're moving towards more discussion to doing so. While it may be a difficult project, I think we should start from an attitude of, I think we can do this, let's figure out how, rather than an attitude of, this is going to be really tough, so we should be very wary of it. I think there are going to be some opportunities, as Monica said, for grants, perhaps partnerships with the YMCA or other organizations, and we should be willing to explore those opportunities before we throw up our hands and say this isn't something we can do.
Okay.